All right, let's pull back the curtain on something you use every single day, but maybe don't think about too much: the operating system. It's kind of like the invisible boss, the silent manager running the show inside every one of your devices, making everything, well, work. And to really get why it's so important, let's start with a really simple question. I mean, think about it. You've probably done this a million times without even blinking. Your music just plays nice and smooth while you're typing away in an email. But how? How does your computer handle both of those things at once without just, completely freaking out and freezing?
Well, imagine this: a busy restaurant kitchen. You've got all these amazing, talented chefs. Those are your apps, right? Your music player, your email program, and they all want to use the main stove and all the counter space at the exact same time. Without a manager directing traffic, you just have pure chaos. Spilled sauces, burnt food, chefs bumping into each other, a total disaster. And that chaos, that's what a computer would be without an operating system.
So, to stop that digital disaster from ever happening, every computer has what you can think of as a head manager. Now, this manager doesn't actually cook the food, but what it does do is organize everything and everyone, making sure that whole kitchen runs like a well-oiled machine. And that manager, that's your operating system. And that's really the key thing to get here. The operating system, or OS for short, is the boss. It's the most important piece of software on your machine, managing all the hardware and all the other software. Honestly, without it, your computer is just a box of parts, and your apps are like those chefs with no kitchen to even work in. Now, this head manager has a pretty massive job. It's constantly juggling 4 really big responsibilities to keep that digital kitchen from completely falling apart. So let's break down what those 4 jobs actually are.
Okay, so it really all boils down to these 4 main gigs. The OS has to be a resource manager, a translator, a librarian, and a platform for all your apps to run on. Let's dig into what each of those really means. First up, the OS has to act like the kitchen's traffic cop. Its whole job here is to make sure everybody gets a turn and nobody crashes into each other. The official term for this is resource management. So your computer only has a limited amount of resources, things like its brain power, the CPU, and its short-term memory. The OS is the one in charge of deciding which program gets to use what and for how long. And this right here is exactly why you can listen to music while browsing the web. The OS is that traffic cop, giving a little slice of CPU time to your music player, then a tiny slice to your browser, switching back and forth so incredibly fast that to you it feels like they're both running at the same time. It also stops some greedy app from hogging all the power, and it keeps all the programs in their own lanes so they don't cause a big digital pileup. Okay, next up. The OS is also a translator. It's kind of like the host at the front of the restaurant, who speaks your language but also knows how to talk to the kitchen staff. This is the user interface. You've probably heard it called the UI. At their core, computers only speak one language: binary. Ones and zeros. That's it. But we humans understand clicking on icons, tapping on screens, and moving a mouse around. The OS is the amazing translator in the middle that turns our simple actions into the complex commands the hardware can actually understand. So think about what's actually happening under the hood. You click on a save button, that's your request. The OS catches that, translates it into the nerdy ones and zeros the computer gets, and then the hardware does the job. Without this translator, we'd all have to be expert coders just to open a single file. So what's the manager's third big job? It's being the ultimate librarian, keeping a perfect, organized catalog of everything that's in the storeroom. And this is just plain old file management. Every single document, every photo, every song you save is just a piece of data. The OS is responsible for organizing all of it on your hard drive, keeping track of exactly where everything is, what it's called, and how to find it again later. Yep, so every single time you create a new folder or drag and drop a file or you hit that delete key, that's the OS at work. It's your own personal digital filing cabinet, making sure that when you go searching for that important file later, you can actually find it. And that brings us to the final, and you could argue maybe the most important job of all. The OS provides the entire stage where every other program gets to perform. I mean, think about it. An app that was made for an iPhone just won't run on an Android phone, right? And a program for Windows usually won't work on a Mac. That's because every app is built specifically to run on top of a particular OS, which acts as its home base, its platform, providing all the basic stuff it needs to work. And this is a massive time saver for the people who make your apps.
When an app needs to do something really basic, like just draw a window on your screen or send a file to your printer, it doesn't have to figure all that out from scratch. It just asks the OS, and the OS handles it. This lets programmers focus on making their apps cool and full of features instead of reinventing the wheel every time.
Okay, so we've been talking about this abstract head manager this whole time. Let's put some real names to the concept. It's time to meet the actual managers you work with every single day.
And you pretty much run into these guys in two main places: on the desktops and laptops that we use for all our heavy-duty, complex work, and on the mobile devices that we carry around in our pockets for everything else.
And there they are, the big names you see every time you turn on a device. For desktops and laptops, you've got Microsoft Windows, Apple's macOS, and the open-source world of Linux. Then on mobile, the game is really dominated by Google's Android and Apple's iOS. Now, each one of these is a different head manager with its own style, which is why they look and feel so different. But underneath it all, they are all performing those same 4 crucial jobs we just talked about.
So, there you have it. The operating system is the manager that turns that chaotic kitchen into a perfectly functioning restaurant. But that leaves us with one last nagging question. If the OS is the manager that clocks in and starts the whole workday, what happens before it even shows up? What wakes it up and tells it to get to work? Well, that's a story for another time. Thanks for joining me.